All right. So at Austrek, we are student first. We are a full support system for students. We help you throughout the application process, all for free, because we are funded by our university partners. So we officially represent 15 universities in Australia and one in New Zealand currently. We have our dedicated program-specific student advisors. As mentioned, Amanda is our law advisor. She's on the call with us today, answering your questions in the chat. We do send around 500 students annually across the various programs over to Australia, and that number just keeps growing. So you won't be alone. There's going to be a lot of Canadians over there studying and in the same boat as you as well. And we also take the opportunity, as we're doing today, to connect students with current students and alumni, so you can hear about their experience and learn more about studying in Australia firsthand. So the steps through this kind of Austrek support and how we help is the first thing we do are sessions like this where we provide you information on what's available, program availability, and just when you're in that kind of, should I consider Australia? We'd like to give you all that information to help you make an informed decision. When you're ready to take that next step, you can start your application with us. Austrek will review your transcripts, make sure that you're eligible and competitive to the programs that you're interested in applying for. Our team can certify your transcript. That way you only have to send us one official copy. We can certify that, and then we can include it in your application packages to various universities. So you are able to apply to multiple universities through us using that one set of transcripts, with the majority of our application fees being waived as well. At the university application fees. Our service is totally free. So we support and advocate for each student as needed. Our partners know that when you do apply through Austrek, you've been vetted by our Austrek staff as an eligible candidate for the program. And we help you accept your offer and get ready to go over and study in Australia. So we have what we call pre-departure, which are events that we throw in person, generally in Toronto and Vancouver, and we get students together to celebrate the fact that you've accepted your offer, you're going over to Australia to study, and we have lots of students meet future classmates, potential roommates, and friends that way as well. There's Amanda. So if you'd like to reach out to Amanda, we'll throw her email in the chat there as well. But if you have questions about law that are not answered here today, and you'd like to follow up and give her a shout, law@austrek.com. Amanda also has lived in Australia and been over, and so a lot of our staff has had firsthand experience with either living there, traveling there, visiting the universities. So we're all very well informed with Australia. So I think, as Lena mentioned, it's warming up over there. That's one of the beautiful things about studying over in Australia, especially the Gold Coast, is you're going to get that beautiful climate, beaches, cities, that outdoor lifestyle availability to you with surfing and rowing and running and swimming and rugby and all the things you can think of. They're a very active outdoor culture. We do represent prestigious global universities that are globally recognized. Your degree you are able to use in Canada after you're done studying. And we understand one of the considerations is due to the competitiveness of programs here in Canada. So there are international seats available for you, with admissions requirements being a little more accessible than North American. For those of you that are interested in the QS World Rankings and the prestige and reputation of the universities, you can see here amongst our law schools that they do rank above or close to those in Canada. So when you graduate from one of the institutions in Australia from law with your Bachelor of Law or your Juris Doctor, they are recognized back in North America as well. A quick snapshot here of why you should consider. So admissions, there's no LSAT required for admissions to law school in Australia. They are just going to go off of your GPA. Depending on which institution you are applying to, we've seen the average being between like a 2.7 and a 3.2 out of 4.0. There are accelerated Juris Doctor programs that are 2 years instead of the traditional 3-year postgraduate program. So Bond is one of those institutions that offers it by running a trimester system. There are Canadian electives taught by Canadian professors. So if you're goal is to come back to study and then come straight back to Canada, and you want to be up to date with Canadian law, they do have Canadian law electives available as well as Canadian majors. There's 1,800 graduates now practicing back in Canada. And again, they go over the world ranking there of some of the top ranked universities. For those of you who have not been over to Australia, this is just a map of the institutions that offer the law programs there. So we have majority of them over on the East Coast, where the majority of the population of Australia lives there as well. But we also have some in South Australia and University of Western Australia out in Perth. Just for comparison size as well to Canada, you're looking at Perth in Western Australia, and Sydney is kind of the same flight distance as Vancouver to Toronto. From our 2024 intake here with the applicants through Austrec, we saw again 2.7 competitive GPA. Our programs have multiple intakes throughout the year, so I'll touch on that as the Australian school year starts in January, not in September. So there are multiple intakes, not just one intake a year for the programs, 2-year accelerated degrees as mentioned, and a bunch of graduates and alum back here in Canada practicing. As mentioned, we do have that undergraduate pathway as well. Some of you might not be super aware the fact that you can get into a law program without a completed undergraduate degree. So that's our Bachelor of Law. It's the LLB. It is also equivalent if you'd like to come back, or it's recognized, I shouldn't say it's equivalent, but recognized as similar to the JD to come back and practice. So there you can see the LLB, depending on which of our universities you'd like to take that program at, ranges from 3 to 5 years in length. The JD, again, as mentioned, there's an accelerated 2-year or traditional 3-year path. There's no prerequisites, so you can take whichever undergraduate degree you'd like to take. And then no LSAT required. And then you can see the trimester system universities, the ones that offer Canadian electives. We have Bond and Griffith University, multiple intakes, and then the graduate tuition and undergraduate tuition estimated there between our multiple universities. Now, after you're done studying, you're probably thinking, great, I got to study out in Australia, beautiful place, beautiful country, loved it. How do I get back? So you are able to come back and practice in Canada. There is a pathway. I'll talk to the NCA assessment process. You can also look to stay in Australia and do your practical legal training or PLT. And then you can consider going to TMU out in Ontario that does an LPP program as an alternate pathway to articling. So there are various pathways that you can take. We have also had graduates pursue writing the bar in America as well, in the US. So if their US interests you, your degree can also take you to the US. So the NCAs, you will have to submit your final transcript to the National Accreditation Board of Assessment. They will advise you which exams you must write. After practicing or studying in Australia, you have to write 5 to 6 exams on Canadian law. If you are looking at studying in the UK, you do have to write a few more, around 8 exams compared to 5 to 6. The NCA will assess your exams, and those are open book, pass-fail online examinations that the majority of our law school graduates said if you can pass law school, you're going to pass these exams. So once you've passed that, you get a certificate of qualification, and then you can go into the articling process. So that is the one additional step when you study law outside of Canada that you will have to do to come back and then start your articling. So the NCA issues the certificate, you apply for articling, barrister and solicitor exams, and then call to the bar. We do have this information in more detail on our website as well. If you'd like to click on licensing on austrec.com, it goes into a little more of the process. And here's just an outline of the 5 Canadian content courses that will be tested. And then once you've gone through that NCA process and you're looking into getting into articling, we've had some tips to secure that articling position from one of our Bond Juris Doctor graduates. So they say network inside the classroom and in Canada during breaks. Get as much experience as you can during your studies. We'll have the Bond students speak to the clinic that Bond now has on campus as well. Consider completing your PLT in Australia. That's something to mention is if you would like to stay back and complete your PLT in Australia, you can write those NCA exams online while you're still in Australia, starting your PLT. So there you can get certified in both. Meet firms face to face. So it's really good to go to those networking opportunities, lunches, mooting, all those kind of law-related activities and events where you can meet in person. Expand your search and look outside of the city. So we have had some students come back and instead of getting into a big firm right in the city, they have started with smaller firms as well and boutique firms. And speak to current articling students. So that's always a good way to get into an articling position as well, is speak to current students, connect with our alumni network, and then they can also refer you for a position. Financing your studies. So you are able to use government loans towards your international studies. Those vary depending on which province you're in. We also have those limits on our website with more resources you can check out under financing. We do have students that acquire a line of credit from a Canadian institution before they go over. And then we have had some that use savings and family support as well. So we've seen a mix of all of these. We, again, do have further information in more detail for you on the website too. And our dollar is actually stronger in Australia. So that's a bonus compared to considering studying in the US or the UK. The Canadian dollar is almost 10 cents stronger than the Australian dollar. And then the cost of living is quite similar. You're also able to work when you're studying in Australia. So if you go over with a student visa, you have part-time working rights up to 24 hours a week. And the minimum wage, depending on which state you're in, is, I believe it's between $22 to $23 an hour now. So we have a lot of students that will work part-time in hospitality or find some on-campus positions, and that helps pay for cost of living.